Good morning. I am live. We are here with the Javro Ignite Leadership Series, and today we will be having a conversation with Matt Hanmer. So I'm going to introduce Matt shortly. In the meantime, I just want to talk a little bit about why I do this and just shoot the breeze just while I make sure people are getting on board. And I've got the link at my end. So excuse me while I check my end. Looks like we're definitely live on LinkedIn. Sorry about the background. Wonderful. So why do I do this? I do this because I am very, very lucky, and I have been recruiting and coaching in the technology space for 20 years, which does make me feel a little old. But I have had the pleasure of meeting some incredibly strong people over the years. Some I've seen go into leadership and leave leadership again. Others I've seen on their leadership journey. And aside from that, I've just met some great leaders, and I'm very lucky to be able to bring those people now to you. So I love the concept of mentors mentoring mentors. I think we've all got something to learn. We're never 100% where we need to be. And so getting access to people's stories, getting access to lessons learned by leaders just takes us out of that sort of textbook and theory and brings us into reality and allows us to learn from real world experiences. And I find that most of the people I bring on talk about learning from things that haven't worked, people that maybe they've seen who have maybe not inspired them as much as they learn from things that do work, and people who inspire them and have mentored them over the years. So bringing these stories to you allows you to kind of shortcut some of the things that maybe you can learn as leaders yourselves or as growing professionals in the technology space. So very thrilled to be here again. What I would love from you today is that you get involved in the conversation. These conversations are here for you. They're not just for me and my guests to have a chat. We'd love you to get involved. Firstly, let me know you are there. Let me know where you are watching from and whether you're watching the live or the recording. Would love to be able to connect with you either way. So thank you for being here. Please bring your questions, any comments, any inspiration, any insights you get through this conversation. Please share them with us in the chat. And without further ado, I am going to bring Matthew into the stream and say hello. So just bear with me now. Matt, how are you?
Good morning, Rebecca. How are you? Good to see you. I'm not sure if you've got some latency on the network at your end, but appears there's a little bit of packet jitter here in North Sydney at the moment. So apologies if that is coming through on the broadcast. But great to see you. Great to see everybody.
Thank you. Thank you for being here. And I think we're good. I'm not seeing a delay with you. Perhaps it's my end. So hopefully it'll balance out over the conversation. Now, firstly, I'm going to get you to just sit there and smile sweetly while I say wonderful things about you and tell people about your background. So just bear with me while I do that. So Matthew Hanmer is
no problem.
Okay, smile nicely. Matthew is Regional Director, Sales and Operations South Pacific, and Managing Director ANZ for Infoblox, who are the leader in secure cloud-managed network services. In this role, Matthew's leading sales and operations across Asia Pacific and Japan, and a high-impact leader. Matthew is known for his skill in developing productive sales teams aligned to a clear vision for customer success. It's delivered quadruple-digit growth to Infoblox over the last 14 months, which is amazing, and has received APJ's Top Region Achievement Award in every quarter he's been with the business. So that's also very inspiring. We're excited to know how you did it. Matthew's got over 18 years APJC experience as Senior Executive and Strategic Consultant in Enterprise IT. Before joining Infoblox, he had senior roles for brands including Infovista, Cisco, Micro Focus, AdNet, and HPE. He's widely regarded as a thought leader in the industry and has a proven track record for solving complex client problems, developing collaborative enterprise IT engagements across a diverse range of industries, and as in demand as an industry mentor, which is another reason why I'm so grateful to have him here today. He's earned the respect amongst peers and colleagues for his high focus on building high-performance, productive, motivated organisations, and his tireless commitment to social responsibilities, social responsibility initiatives, including long-standing support for Movember. So, there we go. Thank you for sitting there while I introed you in long form. I think it's important to at least share a little bit about your journey through that process. So, welcome again.
Thank you, Rebecca. You did miss a couple of key points. I do weddings, I do bar mitzvahs, and I do birthdays as well. So I'm available.
Well done. That would be fun. So I would love to ask you just first off, what is it that got you into leadership in the first place? Did you always know that you would be a leader, or was it something that just kind of happened?
I think that it just happens. I could give some wonderful anecdotal story around, that cathartic moment or that flash of brilliance that occurred. But I think that probably if I cast my mind back to it, I have to go a long way back, and probably to about from the ages of about 6 years of age until I finished school, where I think probably consistently every school report had my teacher saying, if Matt could use his power of influence for good rather than disruption, he'd be far more valuable in the classroom. So I think it kind of started there, really.
Yeah, I often find it's the most disruptive ones who do the best in life. I always ask people what their history is. So, and so when you moved into, did you start in technical? Did you start in sales? Like, how did you sort of begin your technology career?
No, I mean, like everybody, and I think it's kind of salient. I've got a son who's about to start his HSC journey, and I keep reminding him that, when you figure out what you're going to be when you grow up, please let me know, because I still haven't worked out. And I think we have many paths and many journeys to take us to a place which I'm still definitely going on. And I actually started, so I think you only know the sphere of influence that you have around you at that point in time. I had some very good mentors and so on, but for me, I actually started in marketing and in strategy, and my first proper job was actually with the Seven Network, where I was actually very, very lucky to work for Maureen Plasvik, who was the first female CEO they had. And I actually worked in strategy in the early days before the internet with them. Very lucky to have people like Kurt Burnett, who's the Chief Revenue Officer for the Seven Network, amongst my cohort of people that I worked with. So that was how I started my journey. It really wasn't from a technical point of view as well at all. It was all about strategy of programming, understanding customer sentiment, and understanding what was going to pique and attract the interest of the consumer, particularly in that time frame between 6 and 8:30 p.m., which is peak, and that obviously attracts advertisers as well. So that was kind of where it started. But what it made me aware of very quickly was that I had a natural interest in all kinds of different things, but particularly in people and in customers, and then in how we actually connect people to making decisions or create choice in marketplace. So that was where I started. And from there, as most of the people on this call will know, that thing called the internet happened. And I actually got my start from there with a gentleman that most people will know on this call by the name of Stan Relihan. And Stan Relihan, headhunter to the stars, I like to call him now, and call out to you, Stan. I know you're on the call. He actually took me from that space and some burgeoning stuff that I was doing in the internet environment. So I went from the TV side into marketing and advertising, the advertising world. And we were doing some quite cool stuff around the very early days of internet. And though from there, I went and helped launch Fairfax Online, the old F2 days. And then we kind of had an opportunity to start a business in this part of the world, because Forrester Research had no representation in the Southeast Asian market. So they were very much US-centric. Gartner was doing a lot of stuff, but there was nothing here locally. So myself and a gentleman called Rev Gordon went off and started that. which was quite the journey. Through that journey, I've met some amazing people. One who I will call out, who's unfortunately no longer with us, was a guy called Roy Patching. Roy was quite a seasoned campaigner and sales leader in the compact HP days in those days. And as we'd gone through this, I guess, wild west of the internet space, and had been very successful in growing a very strong business, very quick hiring, afloat, and a whole bunch of stuff that went with it. So I was very acutely aware that I was raw, really raw. I was following my senses more than a structure in relation to my leadership style. And going to someone like an HP, I thought was going to offer me some really good structure in relation to develop my leadership style and mentality at that point in time.
Okay. And the rest is history. Have we got a delay? Can you? Yeah, I think we have. I'll just talk slowly. You mentioned then awareness, that you were green, or that you were sort of, you still needed work. How important was self-awareness to you as you sort of grew up as a leader?
How important was mentoring for me as a leader?
How important was self-awareness as you grew up as a leader?
Look, it's people ask what are kind of the three top things you need to be aware of as a leader, and I think there's actually probably 4 or 5 really, because I can't succinctly say 3 things, as most people know about me. I think that it's absolutely vital, but it's a journey, right? I think that you and I, Rebecca, have spoken about these kind of things quite often, and that you get your first leadership gig, your first opportunity to go and to do some form of leadership. And while you get the manual for some of the IQ-based activities, there's no manual for the EQ stuff, and that comes with time. And I think that self-awareness is something you have to be super aware of, but you have to be more aware of it. You have to fine-tune that skill, but it's absolutely, I think, number one.
Yeah. Okay. And so now we're on that topic. What are the other things that you think are key to successful leadership?
Yeah. So I'll preface it by saying, I think like most people in the room, in the virtual room here, I've learned more from seeing and witnessing and watching what doesn't work versus what does work. So one of the things I always think about is you can't fake sincerity, right? I mean, I had a conversation just yesterday with someone about this, and the question was, why are there things that are happening? Why do people leave organizations? Why do we see some cultural shifts or some culture issues? And the reality is people aren't stupid. You can't fake sincerity. You have to genuinely care about your people. So that honesty and that self-awareness is something I group together. I think you have to have excellent communication. And by that, I mean, it's not just the spoken word and hold an audience. It's being able to tailor your communication at any time to meet any situation, whether that's a social situation, we'll probably talk about this later on, because I know you and I spoke about this as well, but being able to tailor that communication. And lastly, I think two things. Confidence is really important. People want to feel like they're being led, or they've got someone who is taking them on a journey that is confident about that we're striking out in the right direction, that we're striking out and doing the right things, because they want to know that they've got a confident leader. And the last one, which I think is super important but is massively underrated, particularly in our industry, is creativity.
Yeah,
creativity and the ability to pivot, change, to see things differently, to be able to be creative in your thought process, to develop outcomes and solutions is super important. We put a lot of focus on the binary, the ones and the zeros, and the tactics around what we do, but creativity is actually really important as a leader.
Yeah, brilliant. Okay, and you mentioned to me when we spoke recently as well, you mentioned curiosity as something that you thought was important, and in terms of leadership. I think is important in life.
Well, I mean, again, a couple of key things. Whenever I'm interviewing anybody, I always ask to describe themselves in a couple of words, and curiosity is a word that resonates with me, and is a word I look for in people, because it's such a big word, but it covers everything from just being naturally interested as to why things work or how things work or why people think the way they do or why things happen the way they are. I think that to move forward, and particularly, I think from a leadership point of view and from any kind of management point of view, where your responsibility is no longer about you, it's a selfless activity. So it's not selfish. Everything is being projected out in what you do. Being curious has to be something you are, because otherwise you're not going to get to the nub of why people think the way they do, or even asking them how they are, etc., etc., etc.
Absolutely, yeah, absolutely. I'm just going to stop for 1 second and acknowledge the audience. I believe there are about 20 people online. And I haven't seen anybody pop up with a comment yet, so no pressure. But as I said at the beginning, we'd love you to be part of this conversation. We'd love to know you're there. So please do share that you're there. And if you're finding any of this interesting, I would love to hear from you and any questions that you might have as we move along as well. Because we'd love to involve you. Here we go. Amit, thank you. Hi, Amit. He's always here with some good questions, so I really appreciate it. And he says, hi, Matt, thank you for sharing your thoughts, questions. Are you able to share a major setback and what were your learnings? It's a great question.
Yeah, absolutely. First of all, Rebecca, I do want to thank everybody who has joined the call. I did point out that, I can't get 2 people or even 3 people in my house to listen to me. So the fact that I've got 20 people on this call is a massive upswing for me. So thank you all. I hope I don't waste half hour of your time. One of my biggest setbacks, there have been many, and at the time they all seem like the biggest. But I think I would say the biggest learning for me as what was a setback at the time through my leadership journey was I perhaps at one stage of my career brought on board people that I had a relationship with that preceded the job I was going to. And so they came and joined me on a journey. But as that journey got quite hard, as we went through some economic times that were an issue in this world, rather than me being able to lean into them as a leader, they lent into me and tried to kind of drive the relationship in a different way around that they were there to help me, that they were there doing me a favor. And so I think that the thing that I learned very quickly was, I like to be as many things as I can to all people. I like to keep things fairly balanced. I like to keep the banter. I like to keep things, relatively humble and fun. But there's always a separation that you have to have through that leadership journey and becoming a leader. And in that example, I blurred the lines too much around that, and I allowed the blurring of those lines to expand to a point where I lost control of a couple of people inside my business in relation to what my role function was and what there was. It was a massive learning for me because it fundamentally impacted my relationship with them in the long run. And secondly, I think it affected me. I felt very bad about it. I think that, what had happened in that scenario as well, just without going into too many details, was that timeline-wise, I'd gone from being a peer to those people to being their leader. I then had gone on to another organization to lead that organization, and I took some people with me. And I think that I didn't set the boundaries and the ground rules around that early on. And I think it's really important you have to do that. And like I said, my personal view is that I love what I do. It gives me the warmest feeling every day and every night, but it's a cold place sometimes as well, because you have to, it's a lonely, it can be a lonely existence. So it's not woe is me, it's just the reality of it. But it's certainly, for me, the most rewarding thing. But you have to constantly be thinking about, where do I sit? How do I frame that? And what do I frame around that? Because for me, if I put the nub on the fact, why have I been successful in whatever way that may seem? It's because I keep it real. It's because I'm honest. It's because I'm real, and because I actually connect with people and I care. But you have to have a balance around that as well.
Yeah, great. Thank you. Great question, Amit, and great answer. And I just, can you hear me okay? Because I know that it seems to be, yeah, okay, good.
You're back now.
I'm back. Wonderful. So interestingly, I wrote down earlier when you were saying something else, I actually wrote a note saying confidence versus vulnerability. And that was something that just came up for me when you were talking about the need for confidence. And now you've just talked about, the vulnerability side of things and the humility that you need as a leader. How do you balance that? So you've obviously, that was a mistake you made. So what do you do differently now with your teams to make sure that you can maintain that balance? It's sometimes a hard thing to articulate, I know, but
it's a very hard thing to articulate. How do I do it? I have no idea. Genuinely, I have no idea. There's no manual. There's no book for this. I think that when you build respect with people and they respect you, that's when you get that happening, right? They respect you as the person. They respect the office that you have to carry and the responsibility you carry. Mm. I think if you, as you transition through leadership and into different roles, obviously your people don't have all of the optics by which to see how an organization's run. They've got their own lens, which is absolutely fine. Mm. And so for me, your position starts changing. Those people who I consider I work for them, my job is to protect them, to make their life easier, to make them more successful, to clear the noise in order for them to achieve their tasks. But at the same time, my peers are the people that I report to, my CRO, my CEO, my SVP, right? So that's my cohort that I work with. So you really do have to be slightly schizophrenic in a nice way in how you kind of have to juggle that through. Mm. It's very hard to articulate, but you've just got to feel the pulse on it. And again, you can't fake sincerity, right? Like I said before, you can't fake sincerity.
Yeah, sincerity. I love that too. That's so important. And I'm sure we've all worked with leaders where perhaps that's not come across as strongly, but we won't go there. Yeah.
I just want to add one more thing. I just want to add one more thing. Right? I mean, in this world we live in, we get very hooked up and very caught up in buzzwords that are appropriate for that point in time. And people that know me, I really kind of rebel and reject this week's choice of buzzwords. So being vulnerable is one thing, but you have a responsibility from a leadership point of view to have that level of confidence around it. So don't confuse vulnerability with being kind of weak. Those are two very different things, or not being around what you're doing. I think the fact about vulnerability is you own your mistakes, you're comfortable with being uncomfortable, you're able to manage yourself, you're able to manage your network, you're able to manage your people, but you seek assistance. So for me, what I do, even inside my organization now, is no one has the mortgage on ideas. No one has the mortgage on what's right or wrong. And so for me, I will constantly seek out people from the lowest professional position through to the highest for opinions and inputs, because everybody's got one. It doesn't necessarily mean that everyone should vocalize it, but everyone can bring a little insight into it. I do a very small amount of things well. I have a lot of other people around me who do everything else really well. So I think as a good leader as well, it's the ability to know that. What your focus is the ability to get people around you who can help move the needle on the organization. Yeah. So absolutely. To answer your question, I think a bit later on about secret to success, that I think is the secret to success, is to surround yourself with people who are all, it's easily said, but the idea of you constantly, whether it's an account manager, whether it's my marketing person, I'm constantly deferring to, not in a way where I'm not making decisions, but it's a consultative engagement and decision piece. At the end of the day, the buck stops with me. It is a benevolent dictatorship. That's the reality of how we work. But if it's done in the right way, it's a collective outcome that everyone's on the same direction doing. Yeah.
I think that speaks to the curiosity word again. It's just being open to being curious and taking on feedback from everywhere. Yeah. No, it's fantastic. Thank you. Now, I've thank you. The chat box has started moving, so I'm happy for that. So Jeff Kleins, thank you. He says, "Are you naturally resilient, or have you had to develop that skill as you've grown? And if so, how have you managed to do that?" What a great question. So, resilience.
I'm going to have to ask you to repeat the question. I completely lost you.
Oh, can you see the chat at all? Is it coming up on your screen? No.
Oh, yes. Okay.
Okay, try that. So,
hey, Jeff.
Jeff's.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. So is this so Jeff? Are you naturally resilient, or have you developed that skill as you've grown? And if so, how have you managed to do that? Okay. So here's where vulnerability comes in. I think that for me personally, the projection that you have as being a resilient person is part of the job you have to do. And that's when I talk about it being quite a cold place sometimes. It's definitely something I've had to develop and I've got better at. But I struggle with decisions that relate to people's jobs, personal things that happen in people's lives, all those kind of things. But I love the fact that people come and talk to me about what's going on and how that works and how I can then help them. It's an immense privilege when you have somebody who picks up the phone and wants to have a chat with you about something. I had this just the other day. And for me, we don't have enough hours in the day, and there's always a million things going on. And I'll be very honest, there are times when the phone is ringing, you're in a meeting, and it's someone in your team, and you go, I've just got to get this task done. But you have to go, what is actually the priority in what you do? The priority in what you do is your people. We may be in the technology industry, and you can use technology and replace it with manufacturing, whatever it might be. But we're actually in the people business. Without the people we have, without them feeling like the trust and the honesty and the respect that exists, you don't have a business. So it's certainly something, in a long-winded answer, that I've had to develop, and a lot of grey hair now as a result from it, and a lot of challenges. And I think that the other thing for me as well, Jeff, to be honest, when you put a lot of energy into one thing, you do typically end up expending energy somewhere else. So I think that while I've been developing that resilience and had that journey, it's certainly been at the expense of certain other things in my life, which is not ideal. But that's the reality of it, unfortunately.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you for that. Heath, hello, Heath. Heath Christie's on. Have you? Can you see the question there?
I can. I just want to call out Heath. If anybody wants to go online and see, without doubt, probably the best dressed writing group, it is Heath Christie's Instagram account. You need to go and have a look at what he puts together and how he goes writing. So I just want to say big call out to Heath.
Okay.
I
think it's just a comment.
Thanks for the session and the reminder to people that keeping it real. So thank you, mate. Yes, we always have Norway. We always have Bear. We always have Bear, if you remember.
I feel like I'm missing out on something now. I haven't actually looked at Heath on Instagram. I don't really do Instagram very much, so I shall jump on there, Heath. I'll check you out.
None of you have lived until you've seen Heath on Instagram, trust me.
Okay, I'm looking forward to that. So this has been a really good discussion. We're actually already 4 minutes before close, so incredible. I told you it moved really quickly. I would love to know, if you had to just choose one thing that you would share with an upcoming leader or with someone in leadership, what would that one thing be?
Believe in yourself.
Mm-hmm.
At the heart of it, you're going to get lots of different things coming at you all the time, and there's things you can build on. But believe in your journey, believe in yourself. It's going to be okay. And again, if I had a conversation with myself 20 years ago, it's going to be okay. Take on board the stuff you get from people. Learn about the people who are trying to take stuff from you, because there are some people out there who are like gravity. They suck. So remove them from your life. Remove them from your professional scenario. Remember, the sun always rises. The sun will always set. And this isn't a dress rehearsal, So get out there, make the most of it. And for me, the most enjoyable aspect of anything you can do is when you see people move forward, when you see people live their full life, whatever that might be, or they're enjoying themselves, or you've helped them through a problem. It may sound virtuous, but for me, that's what it's all about. For me, myself, I was a reasonably good salesperson, but I'm a far better person at what I do now. And it's not for everybody. And the last thing I'd say is that we kind of live in this society where the expectation is we've got to continually climb the totem pole to get to the top. That's bullshit. You don't have to do that. You know, be the best at what you are, because when you're the best at what you are, you're your happiest.
Yeah. That's brilliantly said. I'm absolutely with you. I start these conversations by saying I've seen people come and move through their careers over the last 20 years. And it's amazing how many people get on that treadmill and feel like they're supposed to just keep moving forward. You know, you're supposed to keep climbing, but it's not necessarily always what makes your heart sing. And it's not always necessarily what's fitted for you. So I love that. Believe in yourself and be true to yourself as well. That's really what you're saying, which is fantastic. I think really powerful. So yeah, thank you. I'm not sure if you can hear me properly. I'm
you're
paranoid about.
You're perfect now. You're gold.
Okay, awesome. So thank you so much. Is there anything else you would love to add or share with the people on today? And we've still got a lot of people on, and so I appreciate the people who've put their hand up and let us know they're there. Anything you'd like to add?
We didn't touch on the give back side of the house, and I think that, you know, we all get touched and affected by things sometimes in our life. God knows I have, through family and other bits and pieces. But giving back a little bit of your time, it doesn't have to be your wallet, but giving back a little bit of time is good for the soul. I firmly believe that. For me, Movember was super important because of prostate cancer journey my father had, my grandfather went through, and from a male point of view, you know, we don't get the same kind of medical benefit scenarios from early intervention. Early intervention for prostate cancer for men is very, very important, but it hasn't been on the medical benefit scheme for a long time. So it's unfortunately a disease we'll have to pay for. So when Movember comes around again, I'm not sure what I'm going to do with my Mo this year, but there will be a Mo coming back. There's a terrible video somewhere of me in the Middle East a couple of years ago having to do a piece of camera with the world's worst moustache, if you can find it. But I'm happy to take bets and happy to take offers for that. You know, we're not here for ourselves. We're here to give back sometimes. And I think that's a really important thing to remember. Not all the time, but sometimes.
Yeah. Absolutely. And I've come across so many people, and especially in business, you're always shocked to hear the stories when people tell you what's gone on for them behind the scenes. So, you know, and just generally. So, yeah, thank you for sharing that. That's really important too. Yeah, fantastic. Thanks, Cheryl. Cheryl's there, Cheryl Woods. Giving back is good for the soul. That's true too. Yeah, wonderful. Well, thank you so much. And something you've mentioned a couple of times in this conversation is that leadership is a lonely place sometimes. And so I just want to remind people that I have created a membership and a community for leaders to get part of conversations beyond this. And Matt will be joining us in that community and hopefully sharing a little bit more deep dive with us on some other recordings, and potentially involved in our roundtables and masterminds as well. So that membership at the moment is there's a 30-day free trial, and it's priced at $10 per month. So I would love you to follow the link. I know there was one earlier. There should be another one coming up for you right now. Jump in, join our community, and connect with amazing mentors and other great people in the community who are there to support one another. So because I think, it's a very powerful place to be. And sorry, I've got the pricing wrong. There you go. On the banner at the bottom, it's actually $10 now per month. So I hope to see you all in there, and I hope to see you all next week. I really appreciate Matt's time. I think it's been a wonderful conversation. So thank you so much. I really appreciate you being here.
Absolutely, my pleasure.
No worries.
And
thank you.
To your listeners as well, if anybody wants to reach out to me, have a chat, give me a hard time, whatever it might be, reach out to me. I'm more than happy to chat. And like I said, I'm doing some more stuff with Rebecca, and I love this. It's the least that I can give back. It's like I said, I find it extraordinary that I can't get one person in my house to listen to me at anything, but I can get a few people online too as well. So it's good.
Yeah, that's why I do it every week. Next week, I've got Kerry Lampard, who is a senior leader at Cisco Systems in Singapore.
Yeah.
So she's going to be joining us next week. So
that'll be great. That'll be really good, actually.
Yeah.
That'll be really
It will. All right, wonderful. So thank you, everybody. Have a wonderful day. For those of us in Melbourne, enjoy your freedom till midnight tonight. And, let's knock this thing on the head again. All right, take care.
Stay safe, everyone. Bye-bye.